Hello chess fans and welcome to Chess Vibe, and today we are going to talk about the game between Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi versus Magnus Carlsen, and this game is from the third round of the Fide World Chess Championship 2021. The previous two games have been ended in a draw, and total 14 games are going to be played to check out who is going to win the most of the game and going to be the next World Chess Champion. So Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi is playing with the white pieces in the third round, and Magnus Carlsen is playing with the black pieces. So let's check it out. Will Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi will play one e4 or he will play one c4, because he likes to play English opening as well. So in the first round with the white pieces, Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi started the game with one e4, and we have the third round. So in the third round, Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi with the white pieces started the game with one e4 as well. e5, knight f3, knight c6, and now we have bishop to b5. So we have the Ruy Lopez opening. We have a6 asking the bishop whether he wants to capture the knight or whether he wants to go back. We have bishop a4, knight f6, castle by white, bishop to e7, and now we have rook to e1, protecting the pawn on e4. b5 by black, bishop to b3, castle, and now we have a4. In the previous game, in the first game where Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi was having the white pieces, Jan played h3 in this position, and after h3, black replied with knight f5, going for the bishop. But Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi in this game decided to play a4, so that after knight a5, he would be having some ideas with bishop a2. Obviously, he can go for capturing the pawn on b5. We have bishop to b7, d3, and now we have d6. And after d6, it is the last book move. It is the last move according to the theory. So after d6, the theory ends here. And after d6, Nepomniachtchi decided to play knight to d2. So definitely he wants to put the knight on f1, and there would be scopes for playing knight e3 or knight g3. Rook e8, knight f1, h6, stopping this, first of all, stopping this bishop g5 ideas. And second, there would be no back rank made because now the king is having the square on h7. We have bishop to d2, developing the piece, bishop f8, and the basic idea of playing bishop f8 is there would be no sacrifices on the h6 pawn, because now the bishop is protecting the h6 pawn. So because if the bishop would have been on e7, then white could prepare something like queen c1 going for a sack. But okay, bishop f8, a very cool move. Knight to e3, and now after knight e3, white is having the ideas to play knight f5 or playing knight to d5. So Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces simply play knight to e7. And after knight e7, first of all, the idea here is the knight on e7 is now controlling both the squares on d5 and on f5. And you can't play knight to d5 because now it's a triple attack and you are having only two defenders. So it would be simply captures, 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 black is the pawn up. So that's why, and in this position, if you also try to play knight f5, I can still capture the knight, and after e into f5, I can simply play queen to d7, and I'm simply hitting the pawn, and I'm better. So knight f5 is also not working. So after knight to e7, Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi with the white piece decided to play c4. And after c4, we have b into c4, knight into c4, and now we have knight to c6 backed by Magnus Carlsen. Now the knight was no longer on e3, so he can't come on d5 or f5. So Magnus decided to move his knight back to c6. We have rook to c1, a5 by black, so that now white can no longer push a5, grab more space on the queen side. He simply blocked the queen side by playing a5. And now there could be some ideas of playing bishop a6. Bishop to c3, bishop to c8, and okay, perhaps he wants to maneuver the bishop to g4, pinning up the knight. So after bishop to c8, we have d4 by Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi. So white is simply going to open up the position. Okay, d4 is the most natural move in this position because white have been able to develop all his pieces, and it's time to open up the position now. So after bishop c8, we have d4. And okay, the most natural move is to capture the pawn. So we have the trade of the pawn, because white ideas could be to capture the pawn, or he can push the pawn, or he can keep the center like this, which could be the big problem for black. So that's why we have a pawn trade. Knight into d4, knight into d4, queen into d4, and we have bishop to e6. And after bishop e6, you can't move the knight because the bishop is attacked. So we have first h3 by white. There would be no back rank mates in the future because now the king is having the h2 square, and now white have also take the g4 square for the black pieces. And now we have c6 by black. So black is keeping his position as solid as possible, and the queen is now protecting the pawn on a5. And black idea could be to play something like queen to c7, and either followed by rook d8, or he can even open up the position with d5. So after playing c6, we have bishop to c2 by white. So white wants to simply play b3, make his pawn structure better, and okay, white is fine. We have now d5 by black. So black is simply opening up the position, as he has already executed c6, and now we have d5. And after d5, white is having two options in this position. He can either capture the pawn, or he can either push the pawn in this position. We have e5. If white decides to capture the pawn, we have knight into d5, rook to d1, knight into c3, queen into c3, and after queen to h4. If I analyze this position, I can say that white pawn structure is much better compared to black pawn structure, because black c pawn and the a pawn is isolated pawns and it's weak. But in the other hand, black is having the bishop pair, which gives black the advantage, and white is having the worst combination, the knight and the bishop. And yep, and black can even develop his pieces are already developed, and he can actually give a huge amount of attack on the king, because the king is like alone on the king side. Well, all the pieces are on the queen side, so it could be a good opportunity for black as well. So it's an equal position for now. So that's why he didn't go on for the capture variation. But Jan Nepomniachtchi thought that e5, playing e5 is much more interesting in this way. So after e5, we have d into c4. We have first queen to 8, and now we have e into f6, capturing the knight. We have bishop to b4 by black. Excellent. You can't go for capturing the pawn, because after bishop into f6, the rook is attacked, and black is having this isolated pawns, and black is not better in this position. Actually, white is the one who is better in this position. So at the place of g into f6, we have bishop to b4 by black. So black is like, okay, I want to trade the bishops, because after trading the bishops, and even after f into g7, king into g7, black is actually better in this position completely, because the bishop is protecting the pawn on c4. Black wants to play b3, hit the bishop. Black wants to grab the pawn. Black is completely winning in this position. So bishop into b4 was not played by Jan Nepomniachtchi, and he played first f into g7. He first captured the pawn on g7. We have bishop into c3, b into c3, and now we have king into g2. A king into g7, capturing the pawn. And you can just, okay, black is having two pawns on the c file, but okay, it's an equal position because both the sides are having the equal pawns. Okay, it's an equal position because, first of all, despite having the double pawns on the c file, black is having more space compared to white, and white is having the less space compared to in the queen side. That's why it's an equal position, and black is having the open file as well. So after king into g7, we have king to f1. So white is trying to bring the king near in the center, because it is said that in the end games you need to bring your king in the center, so that it is going to help you in this end game. So after king f1, we have rook a b8. So now black is having both the files. Rook to b1, king to f6, and now we have a pair of rook trade. Rook b1, we have another pair of rook trade. Simply king e5, king to e2, and now we have f5 by black. Bishop c2, and now we have f4 by black. So yeah, Magnus Carlsen is simply expanding his king side structure as well. So after f4, we have bishop to b1. So Jan Nepomniachtchi is simply repeating the position, because although the pawn is on light square, but black can't do anything in this position. We have c5, so that black could play something like bishop d7 in the future, hit the pawn. But we have simply bishop c2, bishop d7, and now we have f3. So Jan simply blocked the position in the king side, and the queen side is also completely blocked. So after f3, We have king f6, h4, king to e5, and h4 was played because black was hoping to come enter like this. That's why h4 simply taking away the square, and now the bishop is taking away the light square, so there is no way for black to enter in the position. King e5, king f2, king f6, king e2, king e5, king f2, and on the move number 41, both the players agreed to a draw. And we have the result of the third round, a draw, again a draw. And okay, the game 3 of the World Championship ended pretty soon compared to both the previous rounds, because both the previous round went according to like 10 p.m. according to India, but this game ended pretty soon actually. So, but the game was pretty interesting. So we loved this game a lot, and we are hoping to see much more interesting. And you can see a final result who is going to win the game, because the player winning a game in the classical chess between these two players are going to be simply awesome. That game is going to be simply phenomenal. So we are waiting for that game. So till then, if you like this game, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone to see this fantastic game in the Ruy Lopez, because uh, on the basis of the opening choice, he played e4, e5, and we have the Ruy Lopez, and the Ruy Lopez opening is played mostly in the higher levels because it is all the theory based. So share this video with everyone and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Chess Vibe.